Alice, thank you so much for being here in the podcast. I've been wanting you to come for quite some time because scrapbooking is such a dear topic of mine. And you were so intrinsic in the community, and I wanted to talk about that. So I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I was really honored that you would ask me to be part of your show. And I love talking about scrapbooking, so we
I
are
know.
definitely on the right topic.
Yeah. But first, tell people, where are you talking to me from?
Well, I live in Whitecourt, Alberta, Canada, and I run a membership group that is online. So I get
Hmm.
to talk with people from around the world. And I think it's just one of the magical things that we have with the internet nowadays. We can find people that do what we do in so many different
Yeah.
places.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Scrap Happy, which is your membership. And also, you have a YouTube channel and all that. And for the listeners, I also do the version of video on YouTube. So I'm going to show her website, and you can have a peek later if you want to on a YouTube or the blog post. But Alice, I started with scrapbooking as well. And it was a big part of my life, a big part of my, I think, learning. I think I would not be where I am as an artist if it was not for scrapbooking. Because I always like to play with supplies.
That really is the best part.
Yeah, but although today I think it's so much easier as a person that had the style that I had to do things today, because today, like with Vicky Button and all this kind of people, they do a more artsy layouts, which I struggled at that time because at that time nobody would do such a thing. And I struggled to do the classic layouts. And that's how I end up actually going to digital, because I could do all the artsy stuff that I could not do on paper. And also at that time, to storage, everything, when you do bulky with paints and all kinds of chipboard, and it was getting kind of clunky to store all my layouts. um, but nevertheless, I always played with paper and all that kind of stuff, so it never really left to me. So it's and I think, and when I started this, I don't know if you see this, because I know you also go on craftation and all this, events, and you show them on your YouTube in the time that, before COVID. And you interview a lot of people and you talk to people. But I think there is still a stigma about scrapbooking, right? When you say about scrapbooking, people are like, they still think about the grandmother scrapbook, or they see it as a hobby and not as a medium of art, and they don't see the value of stories, documentation.
I
But I saw a scrapbook, not just that, but beyond that, it helped me tremendously on my well-being and mental health. So how do you see this stigma? Do you think still have it? How do you people see today?
I definitely think that we see that. I think when scrapbooking had its heyday, where it was just such a big thing and everybody had it everywhere, so many people dove into scrapbooking, or they met it through creative memories like 20 some years ago. Like I started scrapbooking in 1999. So that's been a little while since then. So I really think that a lot of people have a preconceived notion of what scrapbooking really is, and it
Absolutely.
became something that other people do. That's not something that I do, that's what other people do. But I think that they just haven't seen where scrapbooking has come now. Scrapbooking really has such a broad definition that it can be really hard to tell people what scrapbooking is, because there are so many different approaches, so
Mm-hmm.
many different ways to dive
That's
into
true.
it, and so many different goals. I think that's the biggest thing is when we understand what our goal with scrapbooking is, it helps us to find the right path and create something that we really love. Like that's my goal, is to make scrapbook pages that we love. And I think for myself, it came down to figuring out what that goal was. And I personally like that artistic side. I love learning new techniques. Like,
Mm-hmm.
right, I have been obsessed with watercolor, and I found your tutorial on YouTube and I'm like, this is so good because you broke it down so simply and just showing how to move the paint, how to move the water, how to get those effects, and how to make something that's not like ugly. Let's be real. Um, when you're mucking around, it can feel hard.
Yeah.
But I think that when I thought of watercolor, that was a separate thing. That's something that artists do. And when I thought of planners, that was a separate thing. Planner people did those.
Yeah.
And when I thought of like, we could separate all of these different pieces, but scrapbooking is kind of almost opened its arms and said, we'll take it all. We want it all. And that has allowed people to really customize their path, to find what makes them joyful in it. I personally love the part of documenting stories.
Yes.
I just find it to be so important. And, you know, some people are like, well, I don't have kids. I'm like, great. Like that's even better. It makes your stories easier because then they are really your stories.
But also,
right?
we have a place in stories. We have a place in them. We
I know
deserve it.
I know so many like grown-up women or men too. There's some men out there, but there's so many grown-ups that come to scrapbooking and because they maybe got into it with their kids, trying to document their kids' life, they didn't actually realize how much it could be about them.
Oh, yeah.
And I like to put my own lens on all of my stories. Like if I make a page about one of my kids who are now grown-ups, like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? But if I make a page about them, I have to tell their story through my eyes because I can say you did this, this,
I
this.
always did that, yeah.
But I can't tell how they felt. Like I can say what I think they felt or my observation, but I can't really tell their story in the way that I can tell my version of their story.
And also it's about why do we put ourselves in categories, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I decided to start this podcast and the name is Artistically You because I believe no matter what you do, you are an artist. And some people do amazing stuff in scrapbook page. I mean, the work, I mean, people don't realize. I mean, I started with Debbie Hodge, right? And, you know, she had Get It Scrapped. And the people don't realize the amount of composition you have to know. The rules of composition apply to scrapbooking, right?
I think
All of that.
scrapbookers
Yeah.
scrapbookers become like graphic artists, they become actual artists, and they become photographers, and they become really good journalers. Like, you know,
Yes.
there are different aspects that we have to put into this to create our scrapbook pages, in addition to really good at organizing and collecting our supplies.
Yes. I'm just so, you know, I continue to see some things about, I know they don't do the things, the presentations for people like me, but I use, for example, a lot of Tim Holtz stuff on my, not just my watercolor, but my mixed media work. And I know many artists don't even know about this because they were not part of this world. And I feel actually very lucky that I was part of this world and I know all these brands that have these products and I can use it. Like I use Vicky Button pigments, you know, I have some of her pastes and I can actually implement these things on my work. But thanks to the crafting community, right? I'm putting quotes here because it's so rich today, the options that you have, right? Before the scrapbook page, they have just this outline. You put one photo here, nah, all like just line. And I'm
Well,
like, no, we are so beyond that today.
I talked to some people, like my brother, he wanted to make a photo book, but he was putting his pictures, he's adding some words. I'm like, guess what you're doing? You're scrapbooking.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't scrapbook. And I'm like, you don't have to call it that. I'll let you get away with not calling it that. But
Yeah.
I think that when we're doing these options and we're adding that personal bit of ourself into it, it is about telling our story. So much of art nowadays is about telling your story through your art.
Absolutely.
And I think that scrapbooking just allows us to focus on our own life in many ways. And I think that as we explore our life, like lots of times scrapbooking, it gets accused of looking at your life through rose-colored glasses because we tend to scrapbook the happy, shiny moments. But I see so many more scrapbookers that are digging into like the deep parts of
Oh,
their
I'm so
story.
glad. I always wrote hard stuff, you know?
And I think it can be such a place of like discovery for yourself and healing for yourself. And, maybe they're working on the outside with help too, but I think giving yourself a artistic way of dealing with emotions
Yeah,
and thoughts and feelings.
absolutely.
Look at Bible journaling, like
Yeah.
such a big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Big community.
that's like a whole like
Another
it's a
kind of, yeah.
it's adjacent to the scrapbooking, right? Like so
I
many
think it all
scrapbookers
came
are
from
like,
scrapbooking. Yeah, I think also our journal came from scrapbooking, right? So I think all this family, I think they all can be on the same umbrella. I think they
and
have
like,
many things that are similar to each other in a way.
yeah. And if they didn't come from us, like we've embraced it.
Yeah,
So whichever
a
way
lot.
that road goes, I think the fact that it's like, hey, this is a really good idea. This can be part of telling my story. I think that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I also wanted to talk to you about, because I think you're very good at it, is that about the community. Because one thing that I loved actually when I did also card making. It's also a huge community. And but what I liked about scrapbooking is that I don't know, there's something different. The community is so um, tied together, and you can find many kinds of community. Um, and I know you on your YouTube channel, you go live, right? And you scrapbook together, and people are having a conversation. And you, as ahead of time, you also are on Clubhouse having conversations.
I know. I love Clubhouse. When I first found it, I think I stayed
I
awake
love
for
to.
like
Yeah.
24 hours just listening to all
Yeah,
of the
I learned a lot at
conversations.
Clubhouse. Yeah, I learned a lot. I had to give like a break to not get it too addicted to, because I was spending too much time on it. But I'm glad when I pop up there, I see like you or people that I want to learn about, for example, Pinterest or things like that, or even like emotional things, intuition and things like that. I think it's wonderful, but it's wonderful because the community sense. I
Right.
think that's the point of it. So, why do you think Scrapbook has such a, a community that is so big, but also that is so like tied together?
I think it's two things. I think that part of what we're doing is telling our stories. And so we're sharing our stories, and
Right.
other people are let into those parts of our life. If you've ever picked up a scrapbook magazine and flipped through it, you're going to look at the pictures, you're going to look at the pretty art that they created, but you're also going to like want to be looking really close to see what words did they put on their page. You want to read how somebody told that story. And I think that really relates back to part of my goal with documenting my story. I have old pictures from my grandmother, and I can see the people and I know who some of them are, but without her story that tells me about the trip they were on, or the relatives that came from overseas, or whatever that situation is, I don't know why that photo was taken and why that was an important moment for them to actually spend the money to make a photo, right? Like that
Yeah.
was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
And scrapbooking lets us have a peek behind the scenes, right? And I always say, like with your journaling, if you're telling what you see on the photo, you're not doing your journaling justice, because you need to say what's going on behind that photo. What
Yeah.
made you pick up the camera to document that moment? What are
That's a
you
good point.
thinking right now? What are you feeling right now? And then going back to the other second thing, like I think that we all like to help each other. I think people genuinely like helping. And with scrapbooking, there's always somebody that knows something that can
That's
help
true.
you with something, and you have the opportunity to help others. And I think that
I
really
agree.
helps to build a community when somebody shows you like for the first time how to heat emboss with like the
Yes.
stamping. That's like magic. You're literally teaching somebody magic when you see
Yeah.
that embossing powder melt. It is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I think that chance for us to connect through our stories and through sharing of creative ideas, that is one of the best things. I just attended a weekend of card making
Mm.
hosted by Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine. And it was amazing. The teachers showing the stuff, but also when people are asking questions about the classes, there's somebody popping in there and helping, right? There's always somebody helping.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how communities are built. Like I started hosting events too, especially with 2020 being the kind of year that it was. I started hosting big education events for
Right.
scrapbookers. And I've been blown away and so honored that people would come and do these events with me. But I brought them amazing people and showed them how to do really cool things that they can try to use in their scrapbooks. And I think, of course, like, why would we not want to do that, right?
Mm-hmm. And I agree that the scrapbook community is really helpful. They really wanna gather and help each other and answer questions. And for sure, this is one of the things that I always learn from. I mean, I used to do lives doing scrapbooking when were not even a thing because there was no Facebook, there is no YouTube live. I did on a platform called Ustream that people didn't even know, you know, we were not even know what we were doing. And and when I see today what you can do and have all this community and groups and things like that, it's just amazing. And I also want to force on the point that you said of the pictures that we have to say things beyond the picture because let's agree, today we have more pictures than any time,
Absolutely.
right?
And it can feel like we have so many pictures, like, where do you even start? But
Exactly.
I think that you have to realize you're never going to scrapbook at all.
Mm-mm.
So I don't look at scrapbooking from a way of being behind or caught up because I don't expect to be either of those ever.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be caught up and I am always going to be behind. So I think I said that wrong. But I think that knowing that it becomes my job to curate and I get to choose the parts of our story that we need to save. Just like my grandmother chose when to take out the camera so that she was saving those moments,
Yeah.
it becomes my job to choose which of these myriad of photos that I have in a day or a week or a month or a year become the ones that actually I want to share more about and
Mm-hmm.
tell that little insight into our life that we're living.
Yeah, because I think we take a lot of pictures today, but do people that are gonna see the pictures later, are they gonna know what the pictures are really about and why did you take the pictures, right? I don't scrapbook anymore in the way that I used to scrapbook, but I do. I have to go back now that my stuff is here back. That I do now little travel notebooks, and I have that little printer that prints like Polaroids.
Yeah.
And actually, it's like a sticker. It's a sticker. I love that printer. It makes like 3 by 4 pictures, and I do that kind of style now because it's important for me to keep telling some stories. And I think that goes so much into my art, because when you reflect on things, you get inspiration and also you resolve some things that you're struggling with. And I think that is important.
And I think having different sizes of projects for us to work in has been amazing because I think some people look at a 12 by 12 and they're like, no, I need 2 pages. So they do like 12 by 24. But other people say that is just too big. It is too much. It
Yeah.
is overwhelming. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
And I love that nowadays we have traveler's notebooks or
Yeah.
art journals. There are
Yeah.
so many different ways for us to kind of get into this and it feels more approachable. In
Yeah.
fact, I have a friend online that does little daily notebooks, and they're like just a little tiny note card size. They're, I don't know, I think they're 3 by 4 or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're tiny, but having that daily ritual of doing that tiny little project has helped her tell all kinds of stories.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, like, because it was so small, I could do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my best friend is fortunately with cancer, and she's on the end stage of it. And I remember one time I asked her, "Did you had some kind of scrapbook, or did you like wrote anything for them?" At that time, when I asked her, she's like, "I'm not dying." And I told her, "Well, I'm not dying either, but I have my scrapbooks and I write things to my son, or I have all, you know." So I think if you're outside this world, or two things, you think you're not artistic enough,
Mm-hmm.
or you think that why I should do such a thing if I'm not dying, I'm not sick, or why I should leave stories for them. And another thing, excuse that I heard a lot in that time was, I don't know if it's true today, but it's like, "Oh, my kids are not gonna want all the scrapbooks. They're gonna probably trash them." And I always said, "Well, I don't care. I'm giving my son a choice at least, because I didn't have that choice. I didn't have anything to keep." So it's important to have that choice. And you are not just doing for them, you're doing for you, the outlet of you letting it out.
It's
Why
the
we
act
always
of
have to
creating,
think,
right?
right? Why we have to think that always we have to do something if somebody gonna do something with it? Why can you not just have fun?
Mm-hmm. I look at this. I have two boys. They're in their early 20s right now. And I think, if they never want this, it's still 100% worth it because I do it for myself.
Exactly. It
And,
served a purpose in your life, right? It gave you happiness. You make you remember stories, and the stories make us happy. Or even the ones that made us sad, we learn from them.
well, and I think that not every page that I make is a work of art. It's
Right.
true. Some of them I just make for fun. Some of them turned out okay. Some of them I actually have gone back and fixed or changed or recreated because I really wasn't happy with it. But I think not very many because there's just not enough time there. I have to move forward. But I think that whether my boys want them or not, knowing that I'm making them for myself and to make myself happy, it is my own artistic expression.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that is one of the most important things that I can do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs something that they enjoy. The
Absolutely.
thing that I enjoy helps me like reflect on my life more, and that also helps me enjoy my life more.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Scrap Happy, because we talked about community, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you built this community, and I'm gonna show here for people that are watching this in the video um, why you talk about the Scrap Happy, and tell us a little bit about what Scrap Happy is.
So, Scrap Happy is a membership community for scrapbookers, and we do different online challenges, events, and basically it becomes your online scrapbooking family. And one of the things that I really love, like, I actually didn't create the group, it was created 11 years ago by Lane Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And I had joined the group after she hosted one of the challenges. It's called Load, and it's such an amazing event. I wish I could take all the credit for it. I don't because I didn't come up with this concept. But we actually do challenges 3 times a year where we create a layout every single day for a month.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I know I'm like, when I signed up the first time, I didn't even think that was possible. Like, I didn't think that people could do that. I definitely didn't think that I could do that. But every day she has there would be a theme, and then there would be a prompt, and it would help you either tell a story or use a product or just try something interesting. And it would give you this jumping off point to dive into your supplies and start creating. And I did my first load, and I will tell you, like, I've had a few that I didn't complete, but you'll notice I didn't say that I failed, because if I made 7 pages out of a month, that's pretty great. If I made 10 pages in a month, that's pretty great. Sometimes it's 3 pages in a month. To say that all of these things are, if it's helping me tell my story and do what I love, then that's what's important. And then during the load challenges, when everybody is making their pages, like we've adapted it a little bit over the years. So now every day we not only have our overarching theme, but then we have like a little focus for each day. And then each day we dive into a story prompt and a technique prompt, which I love because it allows me to take those two options and create a page. And sometimes I don't use the prompts. Like, there's no requirement. Layout a day is create a layout a day, whatever you want to work on. But the story prompt gets me thinking about a story that I might have never told before. The technique prompt gets me trying something fun. So sometimes I say to people, use one, use the other, use them both, or just do your own thing. And I think that becomes a perfect way to approach scrapbooking. Like, find something that really works. And for me, the magic was in 2 ways. Like, I loved creating the pages, because even though I'm doing it every day and I'm feeling a little bit of pressure to get it done, right? But I did it, so that's amazing. But also, I ended up getting ended up creating pages that I really loved because of the starting with a story. So it kind of just took my whole process and flipped it upside down. Because before, when I would make a page, I'd make the page with my photo, with my products, and then I'd get to the end, I have to add a story. What do I even say? But with these pages, starting with that story was like completely opposite. I'm like, oh, I have to tell this. And then I would make my page. I would go and find a photo that helped me tell that story. And while it doesn't necessarily help me with my monthly photos that I think are important to scrapbook, it does help me tell stories from all parts of my life that I feel are an important part of our story, or an important part of my story. And that's been amazing. And then the second great thing that comes with it is that everybody comments on each other's pages and say encouraging things like, oh my gosh, I love your design. That picture's so funny. The way you told your story is great. Whatever they're saying, it's just that little bit of encouragement that kind of buoys you up and makes it so that you really feel encouraged to kind of go after the next day.
So if you are watching this on YouTube, I'm showing the website while she was speaking, and I stopped on this layout because I love it, because the watercolor. So this is the kind of thing we were talking that before people would not think about using mixed media things in scrapbooking. But and also you have a podcast as well, and this is the podcast here. And if you are just listening to this, but the Scrap Happier podcast, so in any podcast host, but also at the blog scrappyhappy.org. And Alice, in the membership, the Scrappy Happy, so what actually you guys do? Do you have the challenges, but what else do you guys do?
So we do an annual membership because we host those big challenges, the load challenges, 3 times a year. We do them in February, May, and October. And actually, October is really fun because that one, our members, we have a group of members that get together and create the challenges. So it's by the members and for the members. So that's kind of a different style of our challenge. The February and May ones, I'm a little bit more at the helm for those ones. And I actually make a daily video with our prompts. The October ones are just written. But in addition to that, we have at least 5 monthly live events that we do. So we do a Scrapbook Live. When we do Scrapbook Live, we invite we invite others to join us. They have to be on my email list to come and join us for those events. But we host that once a month. I use a kit from a company called the Scrap Room, and I just create a layout and we talk as I'm creating, and then I get to do a draw for a free kit. So I buy my kit from them, but then they give away a free one. So I think that's really
So, but
quite fun.
you also have a community, right? While between these things going on, people
Yeah.
share and they're
Yeah.
showing what they're creating.
Yeah, and so like with like when we do our scrapbook live, lots of times we do a little bit of show and tell, and people get to show off what they're making. And so many of the people that come and show are the members from the community because they know me and they're like, Alice, look what I made. And I get to see like those parts of their life, and you really develop those friendships within there. We host other events called Scrap Happy together. So it's just us hanging out. We have our happy hour events. And then we also have a monthly education event. So we have a class called Scrap School where we learn some new techniques, or maybe design styles, or maybe we learn a different way to approach our stamping
You
or
had a big
creating.
event recently, right? Ali Edwards was a keynote speaker. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
she's doing it.
Yeah, we hosted an event called the Scrap Smarter Experience, and we're doing that actually twice a year because I
Wow.
got a lot of demand. People were after the first one, they're like, "You're doing this again, right?" I'm like, "I hadn't actually thought about that." Like, but yeah, we've had some amazing teachers and keynote speakers.
Yeah,
I've
I saw.
hosted
That's
three of them
amazing.
now. So we Stacy Julian has keynote done our keynote speech, and
Wow.
Ellie Edwards was for January, and then we just had one here in August, and we had Shamel as our keynote speaker
Wow.
and as a teacher because
Yeah,
I'm like, please, will you
I
also
even
teach
talked
us?
to I even talked to a friend of mine that she was actually a guest here on the podcast. We talked about our journaling and hard stuff to join them about, but she's a scrapbooker. And I told her when I saw your Instagram, I said, look, this person that I know, she's gonna have an event. I don't know if you know them, but it's gonna have Chamel, and she's crazy about Chamel, and so she's like, oh, I'm gonna sign up.
Yeah,
So
and like I looked at the events as an opportunity for everyone to get together and learn some new techniques and concepts, ideas.
and also in this
They're
time
not,
of COVID, right? To be
yeah.
together, even like talking with people, like we are so isolated with you that we don't talk to adults.
I think I hosted one of the first like big online virtual events. Like
Yeah.
since like there's been more, but my focus is not on the product. So they're not product based classes. I want them to be concept based classes. So you're not going to get a box full of goodies. Like there are people that do events like that and they do such a great job. But for this, I'm bringing together teachers, and sometimes people are like, I didn't know who that was, but oh my gosh, I loved her class, right? And so I get the chance to introduce you to some of the names like Vicky Booten or Shamel, Paige Evans. Like I've worked with some amazing people. I can't even believe the opportunities,
Yeah.
but also some of my friends or fellow creators in the scrapbooking world, or people that are getting into design or they're on design teams, but they have a certain style and they have certain techniques that they use that they come and they teach for us. And that has just been amazing. So yeah, it's all of the pieces like between the membership and these events, and like I'll just confess, like my members got like a screaming deal on the event. Like I gave them a huge discount because I wanted them to come, right? Like I'm like, I have to pay for all of these things for the event, but I want you guys to be able to say yes really easy. So I gave them a great deal to come and join us for the event. But
Producing
you
an
know,
event is not easy. It's
yes.
not my thing.
I will just say yes. It is not easy. And we've had our share of little tech issues. I actually picked up my whole studio
Uh,
space and moved it to my son's house
it's always
so that we
happened.
didn't deal with issues, and
Um,
but
but you
people
also have,
understand.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in the Zoom times today, everybody's aware of tech issues.
Yeah.
I mean, we have our own before we got started here recording, right? So it's
That's
like
right.
you cannot run from. You just have to embrace it. But also, you have your YouTube, and I know you do lives there. So I think it's an opportunity for you to, like, if people are like, what are they two talking about? Um, I will post later on the notes your YouTube channel, but tell a little bit what you do live there for people.
So on YouTube, well, I do post the replays of our scrapbook live. So if you didn't like sign up for the email, you're like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
too
yeah.
big of a commitment. I hate email, Alice. Then you can actually see the replays on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But I do a special event in April, and I've done that for 2 years now. That was another thing that happened last year with 2020. March hit, and then really people are like, I'm so frustrated and I'm at home, and we were all like worried and scared. And I said, like, what can we do? So I started 5 days a week, like daily, taking not on weekends, but 5 days a week course. I guess not really a course, just a live series called Happy at Home. And the goal was to hang out together, explore some creative
I
techniques,
remember that. Yeah.
explore some scrapbooking ideas. And so I did like about 20, 22 kind of live sessions the last 2 years in April. And, if there is an area of scrapbooking that I have not explored, I would love for somebody to let me know, because I'm looking forward to doing the series again next April. And for
So,
me, it's just a chance to really play.
but right now you're not doing lives.
I do lives, but I host them on Zoom, and so I put them on my
Okay.
YouTube
So
as a
then people can
replay
have the Zoom link if they sign up for your
for my email.
email.
Yeah,
Oh, I have to
scrap.
sign up for that to see if I can catch one day.
Yeah, scraphappy.org/subscribe. You takes you right there where you can sign up, or you can just go to the scraphappy.org website, and there's an email box there.
And people are
And
like,
I'm not a spammer. I literally don't have time. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard that
I'm
I
such a
have
bad
my
newsletter sender.
I have a few things going on. I do try to send out one called Friday 5, and it's like my sunshine email. So I can send you 5 fun things that are happening most Fridays. I won't say every Friday because that would be a huge commitment. But
I don't have
most
even
Fridays.
commitment of the day of the week. I probably send like once a month. I'm really bad about that. It's
But
just so much going on.
I think that for me, like the Friday 5 became a way for me to share somewhat regularly,
Tips,
but
yeah.
also wait until I have something really good to share. And so I share about any upcoming events that I'm hosting, so that you don't miss out on like a Scrap Smarter or one of the load challenges that we open up for people to register for. When I have free events, I make sure those go in there. So the scrapbook lives end up going in there.
And also
And so,
sometimes you have the talks on Clubhouse.
mhm,
Yeah, I like
we
they're
actually
more relaxed about a topic, right?
we actually do those every week. We've been really good. I don't think we've missed a week yet.
Wow.
We've been doing every Wednesday. It's noon my time. I'm on Mountain Time, so 9 no 11 a.m.
Two,
Pacific, 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Eastern.
Eastern.
But
Yeah.
you can go into Clubhouse and look for Club Scrapbook, and myself and my friend Christina are running that together.
Every Wednesday.
And every Wednesday we are there. So
And
just
people,
having all kinds of talks about scrapbooking and the
yes.
different areas of scrapbooking, and the things that we get excited about, and the things that are struggles for us too, so that we can kind of talk. And we love to bring people up to talk with us, so
Yeah,
we
before it was
always
hard
hope
for me to
that.
participate on Clubhouse also because the time, everybody scheduled things on Easter time and I was on Pacific time. And I always missed the stuff. I always missed the stuff.
Well, what
And
I find is that people on Eastern time, they're up early and I am not. So that just wasn't working out
and
so
at the
good.
same time, when you live like I lived in Pacific time, when you wake up, the Eastern time is already having lunch
Yeah.
and move on with the rest of the day. And I barely started. So you kind of feel like so much already was going on, you know,
Yeah.
especially like clubhouse rooms or lives or whatever, and you lose everything.
Well, that's been one of the struggles, obviously, with running a membership group where we have members around the world is how do you find a time that works
Yeah,
well for people to get
yeah.
together for live events? And of course, we record them and we make things available after, except for like the really informal ones that aren't really about scrapbooking, more about community. We don't record that because I think people just want to talk sometimes, and that's not the part that we record. But we do things at 3 different times of day, and we have one that is my morning, my afternoon, and my evening, and that allows our European friends to join us for the earlier sessions and our Aussie friends to join us for the evening
Yeah.
sessions. And if people are working or they're home during the day but they're busy in the evening, there's usually something that does work out.
Yeah,
But
it's
probably
funny.
not everything.
I used to live in New Jersey on the Eastern time, and then I moved to Pacific time, and then I realized how everything is made for Eastern time.
Yeah, very much so.
And I felt
Um,
very isolated.
but I think that finding the times that we're consistent, we're good because that
Yeah.
way it's not like what time is the stuff at. Plus, we use like a Google Calendar so that people can follow the calendar themselves. And that way it shows up in their own time zone. So you're not spending so much time converting to figure out like what time is that at again? Like,
Yeah.
was that Pacific time?
So your membership, do people do just a standard square layout? So you have kind of also people that do notebook or travel notebooks,
Everything.
everything.
Literally everything. We have a lot of digital scrapbookers as well.
Oh.
We have some that are doing like digital of like their own creation completely, like using Photoshop or something. And then we have some that are using the artisan software through the
Yeah.
forever. And then we also have travelers notebooks. We have people that are doing planner size stuff. Yeah, like it really pocket scrapbookers. One of the things that we do during our load challenges is that we always have a featured layout every day. And I turn to our community to become featured designers for one of the days. And so I just put it out to our members and say, would you like to be one of the featured designers ahead of time? And they get their special prompt and then they send their pages back to me to post up. And it is so fun because these are like real scrapbookers. Like, and I say that not to be like weird, I guess. I don't know. It sounds weird to say these are real scrapbookers, but so much of what we see on Instagram and on Pinterest are people that are designers,
Yeah.
right? And they are working with certain products to help show you
Companies.
what
Yeah.
those products can do. They're representing that company, which is
Exactly.
amazing because those companies are making stuff that we want and need. So I am all over that. But I think that when it comes to making our pages, it's easy to be critical because our pictures are taken in the most uncomplimentary of lighting conditions and people aren't dressed up in matchy clothes all the time and we don't necessarily have that beautiful blurred background that makes like that perfect photo. And I think that people look at that and they're like, well, my stuff is never going to look like that. And it can be very off putting. But I think during our load challenge, like we get to see what other scrapbookers, just like us, are actually making. And some of them are like, wow, artistic and beautiful. But like there's beauty in all of the pages when you look at somebody that is scrapbooking those real world photos or scrapbooking with products that they've had in their stash for 5 or 10 years,
Yeah.
right? Because they are, that's the real reality. Like most of us have a few things in our stash and we go back and we find things. I think that seeing that and seeing that real part of scrapbooking is such a good way to connect. Like if you've ever felt like, gosh, my stuff just doesn't measure up, like seeing what everybody's doing, it's like, no, my stuff is good. And I think we should all appreciate that anyways, because our stuff is good. but it helps to have references that are kind of like on our level and not on just like I'm making stuff to sell things kind
Do
of
you
stuff.
see the same level of comparison that social media creates with, because in art there is a, I think there is a lot of comparison, or you can look at a person, wow, look at their art, I cannot never do something like that, or that artist has 300 300,000 followers and all this kind of stuff. That is the bad side of Instagram, for example. Do you think they feel the same? Do you think it's the same level?
I think that because they're used to seeing more different variety in our pages, and because I'm not just like hand picking people that make artistic pages or have the best photography or anything, I think people start to realize that there are different ways to scrapbook, and those ways are
Yeah.
all good, right? That it doesn't have to be about like it can be about the art, but it can be about the play, and it can be about making the end product. Like I have one scrapbooker that when she signs up, she always does pocket pages. And when I see her name there, I'm so excited that she signed up because
Something
maybe
different,
other
yeah.
people there might be somebody else that's like, oh my gosh, I never see pocket pages represented like when people are featuring something, right? And, this is a chance to see like other people are doing this too. Or I love how she set up her pocket page. I love seeing the traveler's notebook. So we just had one recently sent in. It was a traveler's notebook, and she's like, "Is that okay?" I'm like, "Of course it's okay." I love seeing that because we are making those,
Yeah.
and the idea is like, how are you going to take this prompt and run with it? Well, maybe that means you're going to make a pocket page or a traveler's notebook page.
Yeah, I when COVID started, and I bought that line, from Heidi Swap. Is that the storyline that
Yeah,
comes with that binder with three kind of
the
blank
little
notebooks? Yeah,
the
chapter
chapters
books, right?
books. Yeah.
Um, and I set up to do kind of journaling, a mixture of journaling and our journal all together, because I would use photos, stickers, papers, paint, but write a lot and put also, I used to do clip arts of what was happening COVID and the numbers, kind of a documentation of the times that we were living.
Mm-hmm.
And I got crazy and I saw even fabric on the ends of the pages. But looking today, I have so much fun when I look at that book. It's totally like it was, because people may be wondering, Jenna, are you a painter now? Why are you doing that stuff? Because I still do that stuff because it's kind of my outlet to be out of this to recharge my brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? And because I need to write sometimes. I wish I was good enough to write every day, but I'm not there yet. But the thing is commitment. I would sit down every night and I would put the stuff there, some stickers and paint in my watercolor, or sometimes I would just use pens, markers, and I have that portable printer that prints really small, and I'll put on the table. I mean, again, these printers are the salvation. You don't need even to power them. They are battery
Battery. Yeah.
operators. So looking back is so amazing to
Mm-hmm.
have that. I actually really like the Heidi Swap line. I felt a huge connection. I don't know why. I think because it came blank and I could just be me and just use whatever. Because I think sometimes pattern paper takes the power over you. And I always felt when I scrapbooked that my style was not what was out there, because I was already painting, but I would not show. I would just show my scrapbooking. But I wanted to use all this paint and all this gesso and all these things on my pages. And I started to do mini albums. And in the mini albums, I started to put more that, because kind of, I don't know why in my head, I found that mini albums are okay to use that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But scrapbook, I felt that was, you know, so it's, if you are listening to this and you're like, I am, I think this episode is for you to have an open mind and know that yes, we paint, but we can have other outlets that we can have so much good in our life, right?
And I think exploring types of art and bringing that into the other things that we're doing is such a great part of the world that we live in now,
Oh yeah.
because we're taking these rules, we're like mashing them up and we're throwing them out and we're saying, "No, I'm going to try this." Like I mentioned, I just did a card making event.
Mm-hmm.
And when I took the card making classes, I'm like, the whole time I'm like, yeah, I'm making this card, but I can't wait to actually turn this into something that I'm going to use on my scrapbooks, right? So
Yeah,
when I
because it's
turn,
all techniques that you learn and you're gonna put
right,
on another. I mean, I'm sure that the style that I paint today is heavily influenced by what I did at that time.
I think all of these other mediums that I explore become, I like to think of them like a playground for my scrapbooking,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like so that I can test it out in the playground and then I take it back to my studio or something and, do my actual scrapbook pages. Like when you showed that watercolor one, that was me like mucking around on the paper and I'm like, "Oh, this turned out really good." like, and so then I
You
made
should
the
have
page
tagged
up.
me and show what you did.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah, but
mucking in.
I'm glad that people in your membership are more, not more, but I mean less affected by this whole. Because as you said, I have it's not all flowers on scrapbook as well. We do have a lot of push, and a lot of things are the same kind, if you know what I mean. It's kind of the same styles, always the pretty stuff. For example, I have autistic son, and I was always like in events or in the memberships that I was always like saying, why you guys don't do anything for people like me that have kids, a kid that doesn't speak. My son used not to speak at all, but all the supplies and stems are like, what you said, things funny that you said, what you said today. And I'm like, no, my son comes home and he doesn't tell me anything. Even today I asked him, how was school today? Was good.
I
That's
have
it.
to ask you if you've seen. They're sitting right there. I have to grab something.
Okay.
I was so excited. I just got a new stamp set. It is a collaboration between Ali Edwards and Laura Wanzik. And check this out.
Oh yes, I saw that. I thought it was amazing because again,
So,
it's not just about autism, but it's about blind people. It's about deaf,
mhm,
people. It's about people that can't hear. It's about people that can't speak. It's about people that can't see. It's about, on when I was at the time at the Debbie Hodge membership, she had one of the designers, um, you know, in the team was she had a son with cerebral palsy,
mhm,
and I her name is Deborah. I believe she's still scrapbooking strong, and but we had always to modify things.
mhm,
I mean, we had a huge, you know, thing with the community and some companies about the black movement, right?
mhm,
Because when they choose people, I mean, again, do you have anything for Latinas like me? No, you don't.
mhm,
And do you put Latinas in your teams, right? And again, I
mhm,
am Latina, I'm not Hispanic. So don't put stamps for me in Spanish. That's not me. So I think that in these terms, it's growing, it's changing, but we still have to get there. And I think in the case of Ellie Edwards, she has a little bit of more insight because her son, is autistic, so
mhm.
she always had a side on that. So she understands, and I think her products. And if you're not aware, if you're listening to this, Ellie Edwards is a big name on the scrapbooking industry, but her blog started about stories. She's a great storyteller. So I would highly recommend to see her Instagram and her blog. She's a great storyteller, above all.
She really helps you dig into documenting your everyday stories, the
Yes.
things that you might not think are important, but when you look at it, that is your whole life.
Yeah.
The stamp set that I held up, actually, I held up a stamp set for anybody that is listening.
Oh yeah, we
I'm
forgot.
sorry.
Describe for them.
Yeah, it is a stamp set that actually has the ASL alphabet on it with little characters showing the different hands, and there's a few of the other hand symbols as well, and it has the letters underneath it. So
It's
I just
amazing.
thought that was a really, um, just a way to
Unique
bring
and also makes you remember. Some people do communicate like that.
and needed, right? And I think that one of the things that we do see through like building a community is you see like people share their pages and they show this part of their life, right? Like
Yeah.
you see pages with people that have like my one friend, like she has a deaf parent, right? And so she grew up with like, speaking through sign
ESL,
language.
yeah.
And she would attend different conventions and stuff. And then I have, like we have people that are having children that have different abilities. And we have people that, are living in different places and different financial
Yeah.
circumstances. And so, and like you said, like the Black Lives Matter and having Latina creators, one of the things that I really appreciated last year in the world of scrapbooking and the adjacent communities was the Pass the Brush event. I'm not sure if you
Yes,
were
yes.
aware,
It was
but some of
amazing.
these really big name creators actually like brought a person
Yeah.
that
And
doesn't get enough attention up with them and showcased them and showcased their
they took over
talent.
the
And
Instagram. Yeah, that's why they
right,
called Pass the Brush. It was amazing. I hope they do it again.
I hope that they do. I think that definitely could be something because of that event. I followed so many more
Me too.
creators, and I think
Yeah.
that's the thing is like we don't realize what we don't see until it's shown to us,
And you
and
see
then
how your Instagram feed changes, right?
it totally did
Yeah.
because I have so many more types of crafting and so much more variety in my feed. It's literally that case where you can't see it because you're too close to the situation and you don't know what's on the outside, right? Like you just can't see that. So these kind of things we just need more of it, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I had
Absolutely.
several discussions with one of my friends, and she talked to me about Black Lives Matter because I think sitting in my place of white privilege, I didn't get it, right? I really didn't get it because I wasn't part of the community to get it. And so having those discussions and having somebody that I could turn to and trust and like I didn't want to make her have to educate me. Like it's not like I wanted that, but like I appreciated having somebody that could help me because I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like it was definitely that situation. And coming in Canada, like being in Canada, we face like different minority issues here, so different communities, and I think that has just opened my eyes to so many different things. And you know what has happened because of that? I've met different creators and I've been inspired by different creators. And that's the thing, right? Like for me, I'm looking for the inspiration. What does
Yeah.
this person have that they're going to show me that I'm going to get all fired up about and be like, yes, I need this in my crafting. I need this in my creativity. Like doing work with the cutting machines, like that's been a cool thing. And
I have two of them.
I am learning on one very badly, but I'm learning slowly
I
but
love
surely.
them.
I
I love them.
and yeah, just realizing that we need to
I
hear
think I
different
was more
voices.
worried about my Cricut and my other machine because when the truck arrived here, and I was like, "Let me see if she's fine." They were like, "What?" I need to make sure she's working.
Well, I can tell you
And I have the scan and cut.
the only danger in learning the new stuff is that you find out that you need more new stuff too, right?
Yes. Well, Alice, I loved talking with you. I think it's going to be so helpful for people to learn a little bit more about scrapbooking and the awesome things that it brings to us. I am a huge fan of it. I don't like to be completely off the community. I kind of pop up when I can to things, and you know, because as again, I feel very welcome every time. So it's nice to have conversations about that. But tell people, do you have this podcast is gonna not go so soon, but what is coming up ahead now that we are getting towards the end of the year, or if you have something for beginning of next year?
We do. So in January, we are going to host the next Scrap Smarter experience. And I can already announce that our keynote speaker is going to be Catherine Tashjian from Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine. She has agreed to be our keynote speaker for that event. I'm setting up some more stuff with our instructors, but I'm really looking forward to that one. And we will have 10 different classes, plus all kinds of inspiration, just to get you learning some new techniques that you can use with scrapbooking. So we bring a little bit of art into that world to teach us some fun stuff to play with,
like
for
that.
Sure. Me too. It's like, oh, I got my hands all mucky. I'm never too far away from a little bit of mixed media and paint. And then in February of next year, we will have our next load challenge. Now, we haven't announced the theme yet, but I think that everybody will find it to be a very friendly topic.
Shh. Yes, so if you want to be in the knows or want to know a little bit more of all of this that we talked about, I would go to scraphappy.org and also follow Alice at Instagram, Alice Boll. And what is your name on Clubhouse? Is Alice Boll as well?
Yes.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Also, right? Yeah, because if you are on Clubhouse, you can pop up Wednesday there and get some conversation or just listen, you know. Many times I was taking my son to physical therapy and I was like, oh, while I was there waiting for him. But it's a nice way to get to the community. So I would pop up on these places and check. Alice, thank you so much for coming today and talking about this amazing art that is scrapbooking.
Thank you so much for having me. I seriously encourage anybody that, maybe if you're considering scrapbooking or if you're thinking of how do I tell my story, just consider how impermanent social media is. It's, it's not the same as it was when we got on Facebook 10, 15 years ago. The platforms are constantly changing. TikTok, Snapchat, MySpace, what even was that, right? So as social media changes, it's not a place to really save your memories, right? And I really think Instagram right now is great, but who knows where that's going, right?
Yeah.
So as you have those photos and you have those things that you say about your photos and about your life, that really can be an important part of who you are. And so maybe consider a little scrapbook that can help you document your life.
And again, it can take many forms. And if you want to know more, just, go to Alice Instagram or page and YouTube. And as I said, it doesn't need to be overwhelming. I drew on a little travel notebook and it's easy today to do that. But absolutely. And we have to put ourselves first as well. It's good for your mental health to write your stories and remember good things, and so it's always good. Alice, thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This has been such a joy. I can't believe our time has gone by so fast. Actually, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I talk too much? Probably.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I
love
appreciate it.
Thanks, Jana.